Hey everybody, how you doing? Decided it's time to do another video. Had an appointment yesterday that was really eye-opening. I don't know where to start this. I wrote myself a couple notes so I could stay on track. But okay, I'm done with this. I did a private. Okay, am I gonna have a hard time finding some words today? Hope not. Private independent psychological evaluator to go to take all the same tests that I would take if I would take a test with a government psychological evaluator or somebody that I was appointed to me or something like that, to see what the outcome would be. And I don't know, I probably shouldn't even be talking about this right now, but it's important enough for other people to find out this information that I'm going to talk about right now for me to do this, and kind of just let this information out about myself. But it's ridiculous what I figured out. So when no, I'm going to start with that part. When I spoke to this person, who my attorney referred me to, said it would be helpful with the case. When they referred me to this person, I talked to him on the phone, and we talked about gang stalking. I explained some of the stuff to so organized stalking and harassment. I explained some of it to him. He said he understood what gang stalking was. He had somebody that was in a gang that forced another person to go beat somebody up or something like that, or else they would beat him up. And I was like, no, this is different than that. And I explained some of it. And he goes, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can understand something like that. So, okay. And I still wasn't going to go see him, but he did explain that when I went to see him, that it would take 10 to 12 hours to go over all the information in order to get a proper evaluation. And I was like, that's not even enough. But 10 to 12 hours, okay, I'll try it. So I'm thinking 10 to 12 hours. I'm going to go in there for maybe 2 hours at a time, bring all of my information, and go over the information with him. He'll ask me questions. I'll show him, different reports, different affidavits. I'll explain different things in, kind of an organized fashion, so he can understand the base of how organized stalking works, and then he can once he understands that, the theory of that, then he can understand my story and what happened with me, because you can't understand a targeted individual's story, what has happened to them, without first understanding the theory of how gang stalking and organized stalking and harassment works. Because you just can't really wrap your head around it. If you don't think that way in the first place, it's hard to understand how some of these people think. So you have to research all of the foundation of these programs before you even listen to somebody's story. And this guy told me, unfortunately, that he had never heard of MK Ultra. He had never heard of COINTELPRO. And, he's a psychologist evaluating people, and that's a big part of psychology because, well, if anybody that's gone through this or has researched this, MK Ultra and COINTELPRO, they're both complete psychological operations, which split people's personalities, trigger them to do things they wouldn't normally do, act out, a lot of different things that are psychological. So as a psychologist, in my opinion, I think you kind of need to know about MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, Monarch, Operation Monarch, I think Bluebird, a lot of these different things. Especially if you have a client that has been through these things that's trying to explain it to you, and you're like, I've never heard of it, but I need to give you a recommendation for court that affects you and the rest of your life. So, I got a bunch of that information together. But anyway, so I go to see this person, and he's a nice guy. I get along with him. have normal conversation with him, and he had his dog at the office, which is fine. I like dogs. I was petting his dog while I was talking to him and stuff. And, it was a nice interaction, pretty much. He asked me some questions. I told him some things. He did question a lot of the stuff I was telling him, which he should. Any normal person should question this, but then when questioning it, they should research further to answer their questions, not just go, But I talked to him for like an hour, and then they said, okay, we need you to take this test now, and 600 questions, and it'll probably take about 2 hours. And I was like, I didn't know I was going to need to take a 2-hour test. I really have to get to my daughter's softball game. That's coming up here pretty soon, so if I can take that, in a couple days. So just came in, took the test, and after a couple days, and the name of the test that I took is a 600 question test, and I took this because I interviewed with the California State Department of Corrections 10 years ago or something, I don't know, a long time ago, to be a prison guard, be a correctional officer. I was like, yeah, it pays $80,000 a year in California, something like that. I'll try that out. I was in the military still. And I had no idea about the private prison systems or any of the way that things work now then, So, kind of thankful that didn't happen. But anyway, I took this test then. I remember it was 600 questions, and that ended up being the same test that I took here. So, what it is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. They call it the acronym is MMPI. And what this test does, well, I'll just read right here what this says, is the widely used test, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, MMPI, is a method for identifying personal, social, and behavioral issues in psychiatric patients. The current version of this instrument is the MMPI-2. The test consists of 10 clinical sub-scales, but also validity scales to assure that the results are not falsely represented. There also exists the adolescent version. Okay, I'll put one up. Adolescent version. Statistics solutions consist of a team of professional methodologists and statisticians that can assist the student or professional researcher in administering the survey instrument, collecting the data, conducting the analysis, and explaining the results. The instrument is a widely known test, preliminary, reliable, with the white middle class and those whom are severely disturbed. What? The instrument is widely known. The instrument is widely known. God, I can't even read it this morning. Is a widely known test, primarily reliable with the white middle class and those whom are severely disturbed. The MMPI's test that threw me off. Reliability is recorded as 0.50 to 0.80, where the first scale, hypochondriasis, has the highest reliability. Maybe I should stop reading this. Okay, so this test is 600 questions long, and there's kind of repetitive questions, but in different word the question different, but it's a similar question. So it's like asking you the same thing, so you don't notice, and you'll answer. If you answer differently, maybe you're not being honest, or I'm not sure exactly the thought process behind the whole thing. But there were some questions in there that really stuck out to me, because a targeted individual goes through some different things that a normal person doesn't go through, that when they would describe them would sound like something that would be a negative ding on this test. And okay, I won't explain mine yet. I need to go back a little bit. So I took this test and sent in the check to these folks. It's a retainer, kind of like an attorney. I sent $4,500. This person charges $360 an hour. They said it would take 10 to 12 hours, so I had a $4,500 retainer. They called me when the check got there and said, okay, we're evaluating everything and we'll send the report to your attorney. I was like, evaluating what? I came in there one time for an hour, talked to this guy, got sidetracked and talked about some random stuff that didn't have to do with anything with this case. And then I took this test and now you guys are going to evaluate. There's absolutely no way that you can do a proper evaluation on what I'm going through, what I've been through, and this situation with the conversation we had and this one test. Impossible. There's books I haven't shown you, there's links. I hadn't even emailed the information that we had talked about in the first discussion, that it is absolutely necessary that you need to read. Things on MK Ultra, affidavits from people that I have, explanation of organized stalking and harassment, written by a professional, things like that. And maybe even speaking on the phone with a couple people that I know that are certified professionals, people with former secret clearances, top secret clearances, stuff like that were privy to maybe some information, some of this that can explain this also. Talk to them on the phone to prove this, and no, didn't do any of that. So I said, okay, I really don't feel comfortable about this. What can we do? And she's like, well, let me check. So the doctor agreed to see me one more time. So I'm thinking, 10, 12 hours? What's up with the 10, 12 hours? I need to see this person at least minimum of that. I wouldn't even agreed to do this if I would have thought that that's all it would have been. I would have been like, no, thank you. You can't finish the project and I'm not going to pay for it. They agreed to see me one more time. So I got all of my information ready. I emailed him a bunch of stuff for him to read. Excuse me. I get there and he's got everything printed out that I've sent him, and it doesn't look like he's really read through a lot of it or a bunch of it, maybe any of it. I'm not sure. It started with some of it. There was a lot of information. So it's time consuming to go through all of that, but we sat down and we talked about some different things that were in the literature that I gave him, about my past, about the issues of the stalking harassment that I've gone through, and explaining how some of these things work, and how a lot of these will look like a delusion compared to some of the questions on the test. Let's see if I'm saying that right. Some of the things that a target individual goes through, that's put through, are intentionally designed to have an outcome, to have the target explain what was happening to them. They're taking some of the stuff directly from this test, this MMPI test. Are people following me? Where's my other? Okay, so yeah, are people following you? Yes or no? Well, in this test, if you say yes, that means you're delusional, because when this test was made, there's absolutely 0% chance that people follow you. That's just a delusion. So in gang stalking, what do? They follow you everywhere you go. They follow you in your car, when you go to the store, everywhere you go. They close in around you, they bump into you, they do. If any of you are targeted, clearly some of you are targeted individuals. For you targeted individuals, you understand what I'm talking about. People that don't, it's hard to wrap your head around that there's this many people that will do this. But on this test, if you say yes, people are following me, that's a delusion, and it's like a negative strike on the MMPI. Other question, I know who is responsible for my downfall. Well, if you're a targeted individual, the government has issued a payment to a group of people, an organized group of people, and the person that's in charge of you is called your handler. So that person is basically the person that is directly responsible for organizing your demise, organizing all of these different situations and issues that come up in your life that are orchestrated, that aren't just natural and organic. They're not just happening. They're forced. They're inserted. They're a skit, a show, a magic trick to downgrade your life. So if you're a targeted individual and you figured this out and you understand, a lot of people know who their handlers. A lot of people know who targeted them. They know specifically who is responsible for their downfall, and they can prove that on paper. They have, they've got all kinds of evidence to show who is responsible for their downfall. They can pinpoint it. Well, in this, that's that answer. If you answer, I know who is responsible for my downfall, you're delusional. There's another one that I don't understand that was on there that I did. It was on the last test, but not on this one, that I had a hard time answering. My father is a good man. And then you just have to check yes or no. I don't know. Don't know. I don't know that. I get question mark. What about all the people that grow up that don't even know their dad? Yes. Well, he took off. I don't know how good he is. He just jammed. That doesn't seem very good. It seems bad. Never met him, or he beat me up my whole life, or, like, what do you put? If you put no, I don't know. Anyway, so on the second visit, when I'm talking to the PhD, I believe he is. Yeah, he's a PhD. Talking to him, and he says something like, here, I wrote it in my notes. And he told me personally, he goes, now, me personally, I don't see anything at all wrong with you. I have some people that come in here, and there's an obvious, like, right away I can tell that there is something kind of off with this person, and they're having some major issues. I feels like just a regular meeting. I don't see any issues with you. If there's anything that is going on with you, it's down deep, and we would really have to dig with multiple sessions, and I would have to figure out what's going on. I'd be like, well, I wanted to say, yeah, there'd be multiple sessions of us investigating organized harassment, stalking, to figure out that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me other than I'm paying attention. I didn't put in this non-consensual program, but I didn't say that. And he said, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with you. My personal opinion, you're just a normal guy. And he said, you're interesting. I was telling him some different stories, stuff like that, and some of the stuff I wrote. He's like, wow, really? He said, you're an interesting guy, but I don't see anything wrong with you. Your test results were interesting. It shows that there is no reason. How did he say it? Test shows that you are very honest. There is no reason for us to think you're lying to us. And I said, yeah. That's exactly right. So all of this information that I'm giving you that makes perfect sense, read through it and listen to what I'm telling you and understand that common sense would tell you that if I say this is happening and you read through all this information I give you and you watch all these different videos with the links that I've given you, people that have actually been a gang stalker that said, I've had enough. Here's how it works. Here's how these people do this. Here's what's going on. And then that guy got targeted. Read through all that.
So, but he did say on the this is the part that I was kind of reluctant to talk about, but I can explain exactly why the test came up like this and the point of this video. He said it shows you're perfectly honest, you're completely honest. There's no reason for us to think that you would ever lie to us, but it shows that you could be delusional. And I was like, it's because I answered, people are following me. And what was the other one? I know who's responsible for my downfall. I go, those are the ones right there that dinged me for being delusional, aren't they? And he said, yeah, I would think so. I would think so. I'm pretty sure. And I go, okay. So, when this test was designed, they designed it in mind that somebody being followed is impossible, and that can only be a delusion. Or that somebody going after another person and being responsible for their downfall is a delusion. So even though I answered truthfully, and it shows that I'm a very honest person, and there's no issue of you questioning my honesty, and I answered those honestly, because this test is set up this way, the test shows that I'm delusional, because the test says that FBI floating box doesn't exist. Organized stalking and harassment doesn't exist. That's all in your mind. It's all delusional. The key is in this test and other tests that are like this that I don't know about, I'm sure, but the MMPI needs to be revised. This piece of shit test is putting people in mental facilities saying they are paranoid schizophrenic when they are reporting the truth, when they're reporting exactly what's going on. I'm not an attorney, but I would kind of think that if a lot of us can prove what's going on, like Jack Christiana just proved his gang stalking case in Huntington Beach, California. Good job, Jack. And as people continue to prove this, and they've taken this MMPI test, and the MMPI test says you're paranoid schizophrenic, but then they prove on paper that they were actually being followed, and that they can tell they know who's responsible for their downfall. Somebody needs to update their test. You understand what I'm saying? So that's exactly what it was. He evaluated me. I mean, we only spent 2 hours together, but I filled out a 20-page questionnaire about my life history. I sent him 3 documents. One was about 30 pages long that I wrote on myself, on my life history and issues and instances that have happened with gang stalking and harassment. One on what street theater is, one on my childhood growing up, bunch of different stuff I've written over the last year. And he went through all that and actually told me I was doing good for the amount of stuff I've been through. And that, I'm running a successful business. My daughter's doing good at school. She's in almost all A's. She's having trouble in one class. All advanced placement classes. I walked in there in a suit the first time with a briefcase and my computer, everything he asked for me. I had every single document. I pulled up videos for him, edited or zoomed in on the video and showed him a large screenshot and did some things and was very functional. Like somebody that is mentally disturbed, that thinks people are coming through the door every second and not going to be able to go in there and function like that, like I did. So, anyway, his evaluation was fine. The test showed that I was perfectly honest. I love that. Showed that I was perfectly honest, but possibly delusional, because I think that people are following me. And then, okay, well here's the kicker, caveat, whatever you want to call it. I said, well, after I was arrested in January, all of the stalking and harassment stopped. Just stopped. I don't deal with people knowing my personal information when I go to the store anymore. People aren't backing out at the exact same time I do every morning. The cars aren't pulling up to the stop sign acting like they're going to hit me anymore. I'm not getting a car startup at the 30 days in a row at the exact moment I open my eyes and set up in bed. All the weird stuff, all that weird stuff, all the repetitive, odd, timed, weird stuff stopped. And life is back to normal. People are ignoring me, except for people I engage in conversation with. People are friendly to me. They're not, I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any issues at all. So why would, if somebody is a paranoid schizophrenic, do they get it at age 40? Did they get it at age, let's see, I started realizing some stuff was off probably around 35. But I really started researching everything towards after 40, and really researched this year. And the more I researched, the more I found out, the more I learned, the more I realized, the more people I was asking questions, the worse it got. It got worse, worse, worse. The more I dug in, the more I dig in, it was completely relative to what I was doing. The more questions I asked, more places I went, the more forms I was getting, the more it just got worse and worse and worse. And I started filming, and it got horrible. Filming on it started November 2017, and then I was arrested January 4th, 2018. Ended. Probably a dozen people on Facebook and Twitter have posted something about how great it's been not being gang stalked for the last few months. So I'm not the only one that has had a decrease or just a stop in the gang stalking. There's possible surveillance going on still. They can still surveil you without you knowing. There can still be cameras in my house. There can still be people driving on the road that are keeping an eye or whatever, but they're not being overt. They're just doing surveillance, which I almost said, which is fine. No, it's not fine. Damn it, man. I did it again. Lost track of what I was saying. I started thinking about the, okay, so, did that just happen to stop for a dozen people? Well, there's probably, 40, 50 people out there that posted something that I haven't seen all the posts. Did it stop for everybody else at the same time as me? And does paranoia just stop? Or does that show that it's not paranoia, it's vigilance towards something that is happening to you in your life, which is completely obvious to you. So the MMPI, it's this test. This test contradicts reality. It tells the targeted individual that their reality does not exist, even though it's perfectly obvious it does. Okay. Anybody else think that test needs to be updated? You can go online, look it up. I think you can even take the test. You can pay to take it and see your results. I'm not sure. I probably should have done that myself. Who knows? But check that out. Check that out. Maybe take your own trial test version. See what it says about you. I'm not sure, but check out some of those questions. And if you're a targeted individual, you will read the question and you're like, huh, yeah, 100% that question, yes. But as far as test reasons to say if you're sane or not sane, is it negative or positive? But see, if you tell the truth on this thing and the test is incorrect, if their knowledge, if they just don't have knowledge, or if they're part of this whole scam. And they're like, yep, we'll go ahead and leave those in there. We'll go ahead and leave those in there. That'll fill up the mental facilities. All we have to do is keep paying people into this gang stalking ring. And that's just one of the, the financial benefits. Keep this test. Keep harassing people. Keep doing all of the, I can imagine these people sitting down and reading through the MMPI and going, okay, what do we have to do? What do we have to do to get these people sectioned, or whatever they call it, get them put into a mental institution? What do we have to do to get the police department to say, are you feeling okay? I don't think there's people following you. We have to just say that it doesn't exist and put it in our test. And then we have this constant conveyor belt of mental patients that are on drugs. Oh, that's the other thing. The psychologist, the psychologist doesn't administer drugs. The psychologist said, I would research some meds and I would get on some meds. I was like, what, like a SSRI or like a psychotropic drug? Something like that. Should I do something like that? I said, I'm not taking those. I'm not taking those, He said, yeah, well, I'm not really a big fan of those either, but I think maybe if you got something, it'll help, with with the issues that you've been having with seeing this stuff. And I was like, the issues that I'm having, that I brought all the proof that then the explanations and everything, and another thing I noticed, when a psychologist will ask you a question about something like, why are you so important? Or why would somebody do this? Why would somebody do this? Why would somebody go through the trouble to do all this stuff? And then you start explaining. You actually have the knowledge. You have researched, you've studied, and you go, okay, well, in my opinion, I believe it starts with FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And then it started with the Patriot Act, and they're using the FISA court to put people into this program, and the Patriot Act allows them to do that. And then, I start explaining the whole process, and then how these targets get put in as domestic terrorists, and then now everybody has to be on a watch list where all these people have to do, and I start explaining that, and then he's just like, oh, okay, well, okay, hold on, let's move on to the next thing. And I'm like, well, wait, hold on, you just asked me to explain something that is a very, very important. You're like, why are you so important? Why would people do this? I'll give you the answer, but then when the answer is clear and evident, it's like, oh, I was hoping you didn't know. That's what it seemed like to me. So Dr. Gone, I don't know if I should have said his name. Whatever. If you're watching this, or if you end up watching this, I don't know exactly what you're thinking, but yeah, I can't read your mind. I'd like to read one of these evaluations from the psychologists themselves. Yeah, so we have an issue with the MMPI and tests like it that say that people following you is a delusion. It basically says that if you're wronged by anybody, if somebody organizes to commit a crime on you, to con you, to take advantage of you, disenfranchise you, anything like that, anything to downgrade your life, to degrade you, to steal your money, anything negative, and that's all you've known your whole life. That's all people have ever done to you. All these negative things. And then you answer honestly, are people generally honest? And in your personal experience, no, people haven't generally been honest. They've robbed and stolen and kicked and hit and sexually abused, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And then you have a question, are people generally honest? Are people generally good people? Yeah, yeah, for test reasons, yeah. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that are situational. Problem lies in this test. Yeah. So basically, at the end of the day, the guy said, "Okay, I'm going to write my report," you know, and he said, "Same thing, you know, you're an honest person. I don't have any reason to not believe you. But some of these stories you're telling me are pretty far-fetched." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's where you can't just in a couple hours read through this and just go, oh, okay, I get it. It's taken me a year and I still haven't really completely fully understood this. I don't know if I ever will, unless a lot of these FISA documents are released on tactics and procedures and stuff like that." But I said, "Yeah, you can't completely understand this in a couple hours." I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. I need to. Yep, it's foggy time. Sorry. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I didn't go over about that meeting. Oh, I think that's what I started talking about. He said, "Well, yeah, you seem perfectly normal. There's no reason for me to think that you're lying to me. But this test does show that there's a possibility that there are delusions. So, you know, it would take longer counseling to figure that out." And I go, "Well, can you just read through the rest of that stuff that I showed you? And then by the time you finish reading it, you'll have a pretty good idea." And he's like, "Oh, well, that would take a long time, and that would be like at least another $10,000 retainer to go through all that stuff." And I'm thinking, yep, this is how the world works. This is how the world works. For sure. So if you have enough money to pay the person to spend the time to research into your situation, then so if I had, let's just say I was a millionaire, I owned my house and all that stuff, and I had $1 million put aside. If I had $100,000 to spend on this case, I could pay that guy $50,000, and he would sit down with me for a month, whatever, I don't know. No, probably not even a month. 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. Write out this amazing, detailed explanation of everything that's going on. Ask me these detailed questions. You know what I mean? It would I think it would be, the demeanor would be completely different. You know, let's say $100,000. $100,000. You're my psychological evaluator. Let's get this done. That would be a whole nother situation.